everyone. This is Alicia, and welcome back to the Eating Podcast. I'm just checking to make sure everything's like up and running properly here. It's really sunny today here in New York City. It's freezing, but the sun is out and it's really beautiful. And it's funny because I normally use my lights, if you're watching this on YouTube, to bring in a bit more light, but the sun is doing it for us. But I still have my lights on, but like I said, it's a beautiful sunny day, freezing, but a beautiful sunny day here in New York City. I am just coming back. I had ran errands this morning. As many of you all know, the snow is supposed to be coming to us. When you're listening to this, you might be at home, chilling on Monday or even Sunday uh, afternoon, whenever you're listening to this, or maybe later on you'll hear about this after you've dealt with the whole snow thing. You have to get my glasses here together. Um, so I went and I bought a few things. I didn't go crazy, uh, just so we had food here at the house. In the event that we are um, not able to go out next week or this coming week rather. So yeah, so been running around. I actually had an eye appointment today, which turned out really well. So I was really excited about that. Um, and it's crazy, like as I, was on that high of knowing that everything's going good with my eyes, and I was like, great. As I was coming home, I came across an article um that was unfortunately about the shooting that took place in Minneapolis today. Um, and it's, really sad that this is, another thing that we are seeing here as it relates to everything that's going on in Minneapolis with the protesting, which I am so proud of the folks in Minneapolis and everything they're doing to, resist this horrible administration and create change in this country in ways that uh, hopefully will be to the benefit of everyone that lives in this country, regardless of their immigration status. And when I saw the article, I was like, you know what? I need to talk about that today on the podcast. Today was actually going to be like a more, what are we doing for the winter break, or not break, but the winter storm, and how are we preparing? And I was like, we've been through winter issues. We know what to do. We know how to prepare. It's not a thing that many of us are not or new to, rather. So I wanted to just talk about this actual incident and just share my thoughts on it, because I feel like at this point, it's just another reason for us to continue to raise our voices and get out and resist what we are experiencing here in the United States of America. So, several news platforms are obviously covering the story. I am reading, I read the information from Al Jazeera. And then, like I said, it's a developing story. And I will share this actual article in the show notes. And, there's different places that I get news, and Al Jazeera is one of those places. And so I thought, you know what, this will be something that would be informative, as well as provide, additional information as to what is going on as this story unfolds. And by the time you listen to this, we'll probably have more information about the situation. But in real time, I felt, this is what we should be talking about today. So the title of this actual article is U.S. Federal Agents Shoot and Kill Another Person in Minneapolis. So it says Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara says a 37-year-old man died in the hospital after suffering multiple gunshot wounds. Um, the United States federal agents have shot and killed another person in Minneapolis amid an immigration crackdown in the city, authorities said. At a news conference on Saturday, Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara said a 37-year-old man whose identity has not been released, died in hospital after suffering multiple gunshot wounds. The man was a Minneapolis resident and a U.S. citizen, O'Hara told reporters. Our demand today is for those federal agencies that are operating in our cities to do so with the same discipline, humanity, and integrity that effective law enforcement in this country demands, he said. The deadly shooting took place amid a weeks-long deployment of U.S. immigration enforcement and other federal agents to Minneapolis, where they have been carrying out raids as part of President Donald Trump's anti-immigration push. Minnesota has had it. This is sickening. The president must end this operation. Pull the thousands of violent, untrained officers out of Minnesota now. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz wrote on social media after Saturday's incident. Video footage of shooting, which has been circulating on social media, showed a group of U.S. law enforcement officers wrestling a person to the ground before several gunshots were heard. The Department of Homeland Security later confirmed that a U.S. Border Patrol agent shot and killed a person during the incident. It said the person had a handgun and resisted attempts to be disarmed. The shooting has come just weeks after an Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is ICE officer, shot and killed a Minneapolis woman named Renee Nicole Good in her car earlier this month. And the article goes on, and we'll continue on with this here shortly. But as I am like reading this, or I've read it prior, and reading it again, it's just wild to me that this country, well, not so much this country, but that many folks in this country think and feel that the actions of ICE are justifiable. And it's interesting because I was looking at a video on, I believe it was TikTok or one of these social media platforms, where someone was saying that the folks that are justifying these killings by ICE, and you know, explaining away why they're justifying what's happening, is because they feel like this is lawful, right? And so because it's lawful, it's right. And then in that same video, they also mentioned, obviously a lot of things were lawful at one point, and we realized later on that these things were just completely inhumane, immoral, things of that nature. And so, like I said, the video goes on to say just that. It said there are people who are, quote unquote, living by what we consider our legalities. And there are also people who are also determining their moral compass at this time in our history. And this is something that's been happening throughout history, right? We can think about slavery, right? We can think about just different persecutions that were directed and laws were manipulated and created to uphold, doing the things that they did, like I said, during slavery, during our current times as we speak. And like I said, the morality of that was completely wiped away, and people's morality um, either shifted or was never there during those times and even in our present times. And they felt that their moral compass was, I'm assuming, I don't want to put words in people's mouths or or what people's intentions or thoughts and feelings are, but when you're thinking about the legal aspects of something versus what we are doing to human beings, it would be something that where we would have to like really sit back and think, how many laws have been put in place? How many of them have been amended, eradicated? You know what I'm saying? Like we have to really think about that. The critical thinking for me in this country is concerning in many ways. Because I feel like a lot of times we are given information and people don't think beyond the information that's given. And I want to believe that people are taking in information and investigating beyond what is provided to them at face value. And that's with anything. Um, People laugh at me a lot because I read a lot of the fine print of stuff, right? I read contracts thoroughly. I read paperwork that I have to put my signature on thoroughly. I'm not like just, and sometimes, yes, I will kind of like here and there do it. But when it comes to something that's very dire, well, pretty much most things with me, let's be serious. But the point of it is, it's important to read the fine print. And then when you read that print, it's important to then, especially if you're not really clear on what that means, to go beyond the words that are written there and question things, question everything, because the hope is that we will just kind of like read through it. Okay, yep, that sounds good. Okay, yeah, sign and seal. Let's go. Right? Let me get to doing what I really want to do. Right? And we have to continue doing that if that's what we do, or stop and start doing that. Um, Beyond just reading a contract, beyond just reading whatever you're signing your name to, it also requires you to do that in everyday life. The news that we receive, right? The information that is shared to us by way of certain folks, investigate it, question everything. Because the hope is we don't. And we see this shooting, it's like, oh, that's sad. All right, back to living my life, right? And that question, like, what was going on? Why was that man detained in that way and then shot? Like, what was going on? Like I said, this story is developing. So hopefully, once there's more information, we'll get all that information. But it's not these like these headliners that we see, and then we don't go beyond that. And that's another thing I definitely want to talk about in this podcast episode too. I'm not gonna, you know, labor the whole thing, but just also understanding a headline is literally what it's said to be. It's a headline. And that's to attract you to the actual situation. And so you see that headline, and then some people just run with the headline as opposed to reading the entire article, and then from there even investigate more. In some ways it's by design to have a headline that's very catchy, because then it puts in the psyche for some people, not all, that that's the information, and then done. And then people are running with the headline, not knowing there was more information in the article. And then even beyond the article, us then investigating more. And so, just like I always tell people when it comes to nutrition, when I'm working in my field as a healthcare provider and providing nutritional information to parents, especially if their kids are struggling with like weight or different um, cholesterol issues or diabetes and things of that nature. Read the labels, right, and understand the labels. Understand what you're reading when you see those labels, and understand why certain markers are there, those percentages on the side, meaning like how much you should have in that day. Like, really investigate things. Take apart the things. There's nothing wrong with pulling apart information and understanding that. And I think we definitely need to be in a space of doing that more now than ever. Because the hope is that we'll just see that flash headline. Oh my God, another person shot. Crap. Oh, well, I still have to go to work. Oh, well, I still have to do this. Oh, well, I have stuff to do that in my life, and business as usual. Um, so yeah, I hope that we start really pulling things apart and understanding what's going on. And like I said before, this story is still developing, and the hope is that we will get more information sooner than later as relates to this shooting. But I want to continue on with this article. It says, how many more residents need to die? Trump and senior members of his administration have justified the deployment of ICE and other federal officers to Minneapolis as a part of the U.S. president's pledge to carry out the largest deportation operation in the country's history. But residents and elected officials have condemned the Trump administration for its anti immigration policies and said the presence of heavily armed officers on their streets is not making people safer. Speaking during Saturday's news conference, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey denounced the Trump administration for its continued crackdown. I just saw a video of more than 6 masked agents pummeling one of our constituents and shooting him to death, Frey said. How many more residents, how many more Americans need to die or get badly hurt for this operation to end? How many more lives need to be lost before this administration realizes that a political and partisan narrative is not as important as American values? How many times must local and national leaders plead with you, Donald Trump, to end this operation and recognize that this is not creating safety in our city? Several other local and state leaders also called on Trump to end the federal deployment after Saturday's killing. To the Trump administration and the Republicans in Congress who have stood silent, get ICE out of our state now. U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar, a Democrat who represents Minnesota, wrote on X. And it's wild to me when you see, not so much see, yeah, when you see this stuff happening. And for me, I always go back to the question of how are you justified in doing this? You know, having these immigration raids and everything, understanding and knowing that even the folks that are, not, and I'm not gonna say, oh, well, yeah, I'll say pretty much all of the folks that are a part of ICE are traditionally not indigenous to this land. I would be shocked to know that there were indigenous people of the Americas conducting these operations and are following suit with this whole operation. And if there are, listen, that's shocking. And at the same time, it's something that makes me, it begs to question what is it? What are you getting out of this, right? What are you getting out of this? And even the folks that are following suit that are um, a part of this operation that are um, people of color, especially if you come from um, an immigrant family, what are you getting out of this at the end of the day? Because your proximity to whiteness will only go so far. It's going to go as far as this operation goes. You understand what I'm saying? You feeling like you're upholding these American values and this, that, and the other, and you are fighting the good fight. I hate to break it to you. It is the complete opposite, right? Are you upholding American values? I will challenge that and say possibly yes, because if you think about the history and the origins of um, law enforcement in this country, and the origins of them, it tracks. And I also want to just bring up the fact that when a lot of people continue to say that Trump is creating the Gestapo here in this country, I have to stop you there. I have to stop you there. He's not creating the Gestapo. This is not Nazi Germany. If you know anything about history, those entities, the Gestapo, Nazi Germany, the Nazis, they received their ideas and tactics by way of the operations that were conducted here in the United States of America. So this is America. This is America. This is what this country has done and continues to do. So this is not, oh, we're taking from the playbook of Nazis. No, it's the other way around. And we need to claim that and understand that and find ways to change that, because we can't keep blaming other people for our problems. And I say our loosely because my people were a part of these Klan and early police force, crimes, in my opinion, and takedowns, and however you want to phrase it, right? They were harmed by these so-called lawful entities in this country. So we need to change our language around how we are viewing this, because like I said, this is not uh, something by way of Nazi Germany. This is who we are here in this country. I'll make sure this is up high. My volume, I'm not sure if it was up high enough. But anyway, so yeah, off my soapbox on that for right now. But let's continue on. The call for calm. That's the next section in this article. And it says the city of Minneapolis urged residents to remain calm and avoid the immediate area of the incident as it worked to gather more details about what happened. But protesters have gathered near the scene of the shooting, where footage on Saturday morning showed clouds of tear gas in the air amid a heavy security presence. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Al Jazeera's Heidi Chow Castro said the incident has further ignited tensions in Minneapolis, which she described as a tinderbox. It is very much a head to head between Trump and his federal authorities and local and state authorities in Minnesota. Castro explained, nothing that the fight has been brewing since mass protests broke out in Minneapolis after the police killing of George Floyd in 2020. On Friday, thousands of people marched through the streets of Minneapolis to denounce ICE and the Trump administration's anti-immigration crackdown. Hundreds of local businesses also shut their doors as part of a general strike. And I'm pretty sure many of you guys have seen maybe videos or heard about it or read articles about that shutdown that took place in Minneapolis and the protesting that was happening yesterday, which was beautiful. Like the videos that I saw, it was like amazing to see so many people out there supporting the folks of Minnesota, because it wasn't just residents of Minnesota. There was people that came from everywhere to be a part of that. And then in other cities, there were protests um, in support of what's going on in Minneapolis that were taking place. I know there was something that was happening here in New York City. I think there was something I saw in DC, and I'm pretty sure other areas. Oh, Philly as well, Philadelphia. So the protests aren't just isolated in Minnesota. The country is um, aware, not happy, and wanting to support our fellow citizens in other states, which is beautiful. It's beautiful. But what is not beautiful, like I said, is the justification of these crimes that are being done, these murders that are being done in this country, particularly now in Minnesota, and they're all over. Because even beyond this individual that died today, there was Renee Nicole Good. There was another individual. I think was he Venezuelan? I could be, um, maybe the article said that. Maybe I read that. And I just didn't share. Oh, yes, we'll continue on. I think it says it here at the bottom here. But there were other. There was another murder. There might have been more and just haven't been covered. But there was an additional murder besides those two that we're speaking about right now from Minnesota. And this is all done by way of ICE and the law enforcement that's there, that's not uh, there to support the citizens there. It's wild to me. It is wild to me that this is a thing. And at the same time, it's not wild to me because this is America. This is America. And if you're not upholding these traditional racist um, ideologies, you could potentially be harmed. But I don't think the people are at a place. I think as a collective, we're getting to a place where it's like it doesn't even matter anymore. We have had it. I encourage folks to stay safe for sure, right? Stay safe. Do your best to be as safe as possible. But we still have to get out there and we still have to raise our voices, right? Um, Protest doesn't always mean you're out in the streets. There's different ways to protest. Financially removing yourself from certain organizations and corporations that are not in support of the current status of folks here in this country, and how we are managing the immigrants, how we're managing American citizens that were naturalized, so on and so forth. So there's, like I said, there's several ways to protest. I use my voice by way of my podcast and sharing things that I know in that way. I would love to be out in the streets these days. Unfortunately, right now, health wise, it's best for me to be inside and using my voice. I'm okay. I'm okay. But I know for me right now, it's just best that I continue to do what I'm doing from this platform to raise awareness. We will get more information about this. And my hope is that people will stop explaining away the murders of people who are just trying to look out for everyone and the greater good of this country. There's no reason for someone to lose their life by way of someone who's supposed to be trained to de-escalate and to manage a situation, a crisis-based situation, because this is a huge crisis, and the hope is that the people that are supposed to be securing this country have been trained to do just that, to secure this country and not harm the folks in this country. And I don't know if I said this in this episode, but I've said this many times. Maybe not, like I said, maybe not in this episode or in previous episodes in this way. And I've shared this with just friends and family. But my thing is, how are you justifying this? Actually, I think I did just say this, but I'm going to say it again. How are you justifying this? Knowing that you're not indigenous. I did say this. Knowing you're not indigenous to this land. I just have to drive that home. That your people came here. You are not indigenous to this land, Trump. Your parents are immigrants. Your wife is an immigrant. You have people on your um in your administration that are either their parents were immigrants and they came to this country. I won't say they're direct immigrants, but they're right there. Their parents, that might be first generation. So it's like, what are we doing here? Are we just kind of cherry picking, who's better, who's not? I mean, obviously that's what we're doing. Rhetorical. But people are getting tired of this. You want to go outside. You want to go to wherever you're living, and feel safe and feel supported. And the people that live there as well. Everyone that's in those places and spaces in Minnesota, in New York, in wherever, right? Philly, wherever you live on the West Coast as well. You want, wherever you're living, you want to feel safe to just move freely without someone coming to kidnap you and possibly murder you or torture you in a way because you don't fit the status quo, whatever that means these days. You know, I am looking forward to the day that we can look back and say, wow, we conquered this administration. And not only did we conquer this administration, we have changed how we conduct ourselves in this country to fit the narrative of give me your tired, give me your poor. You know what I'm saying? Where we go back to that ideology that we were supposed to be about in this country, um, and be accepting to the folks that come to this country, and not do what is happening right now. That's the hope. I will share this article in the show notes. I can't say that actually next week I won't be talking about this stuff. I'll be focusing more on things as it relates to Black history, and in a way that's a bit more personal, which I'm really excited about. But like I said, I'll share this in the show notes. I will probably be, if you're not following me on social media, definitely follow me on social media. I'll probably be talking more about it there. Um, I love you guys. Continue to raise your voices. Continue to do what you can do to resist this administration, even this government. If you've been following me, you've been listening to the podcast, when it comes to this whole idea around Democrats versus Republicans and all this, I'm like, they're all the same. They're all the same, but that's a whole other conversation. All right, y'all. Like I said, I'll share this article in the show notes. Take care of yourselves. Like I always say, let's keep on keeping on. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Eating Me podcast. I will see y'all next week. All right. Bye.